All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So in this video, I want to talk about a bodybuilder by the name of Jim Haislop. So Jim Haislop was a bodybuilder from the 1960s who competed pretty much right before the era of Arnold Schwarzenegger that a lot of people refer to as the golden era in that 70s era. So he was right before that. His most noteworthy win was the 1968 Mr. America competition. And that was the AAU Mr. America. So that same year, Frank Zane won the IFBB Mr. America. The following year in the AAU, Boyer Coe would win. Then in 1970, Chris Dickerson would win. And of course, the year before, 1968 and 1967, Dennis Tinerino won the AAU Mr. America. So a lot of great champions that a lot of you have probably heard of have won that Mr. America. But I feel like a lot of people probably have not heard of Jim Haislop. So a lot of people refer to Jim Haislop as kind of Steve Reeves 2.0 or the successor to Steve Reeves because he really came right after him. In my opinion, one of his most noteworthy and most impressive muscle groups was his chest. So his chest, he had that big kind of almost Arnold-like chest that just looked unreal, the size and the thickness of his chest. So his height was 5'11". He was between 205 and 215 pounds on stage. He had 18.75-inch arms, a 51.5-inch chest, and a 32-inch waist. He was born in 1942. So really, he had a relatively short bodybuilding career. He began bodybuilding in 1965, and he would end up retiring in 1969. So his first bodybuilding show was the AAU Mr. Florida, which he won. Then that first year of bodybuilding, he competed in the AAU Mr. USA and placed third right off the bat in his first time competing. He also won the AAU Mr. Southern States in 1967 and the AAU Mr. USA in 1967. Then, of course, in 1968, he won that major Mr. America title, and he also won the Junior Mr. America that year. And in 1969, which was the year he would retire, he also won the NABA Mr. Universe competition. So he's won pretty much the big three, the Mr. USA, the Mr. America, and the Mr. Universe. That's a pretty legendary trio of competitions to have won during your bodybuilding career, especially in the 1960s. So like I said, he retired in 69, which would make him, like I said, right before kind of that golden era of bodybuilding with Arnold and Sergio and Frank Zane and all those guys. But Jim is kind of a continuation of my series. Like I said before, I've been trying to do more videos on past NABA Mr. Universe winners because the NABA Mr. Universe, prior to the Olympia and even during the Olympia at some points, was the #1 bodybuilding title in bodybuilding back in the 50s, the 60s, and even in the 70s. So the Mr. Olympia was not always the biggest show in the game. And the NABA Mr. Universe had some great champions that won that show when it was the crown jewel of bodybuilding, and Jim Haislop is one of those guys. So I think it's very important that we not only talk about IFBB bodybuilders and not only talk about guys that won the Mr. Olympia, but the NABA Mr. Universe was just as big and bigger than the Olympia back in the day. So the winners of that show, I think, are very, very important to bodybuilding history. So it's also important to note that Jim Haislop never turned pro with the IFBB. He never had a pro card despite winning the Mr. USA, the Mr. America, and the Mr. Universe competition. So that's one very important thing to note because really, in my opinion, I think that he could have gone on to compete in the IFBB. He certainly could have turned pro, in my opinion. He could have probably done some damage in some of those IFBB shows. Probably not won the Mr. Olympia, but he probably could have been a threat to some of those shows, especially the IFBB Mr. Universe or Mr. America. I think he could have done well at those shows. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of Jim Haislop's physique. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or learned something. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.